Now, if you're a golfer who struggles with early extension in a downswing, but then if you move your hips just like this to complete your backswing, then you're always going to suffer with that early extension. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you absolutely have to move your hips in the backswing if you want to have an early extension free downswing. So I'm Jonathan Chown with JChownGolf. Let's dive right into it. So what this hip move is in the backswing that will ruin your chances of having that nice early extension free downswing is called losing your hip depth as you're coming up to the top of the swing. So what that is essentially just your hips shooting towards the golf ball as you're completing your backswing there. So quite often the time, it's not as extreme as I'm showing here. It's sometimes very, very small. So if I have a little clip here of where you can see I'm sending up to this golf ball and I've got what's called a tush line right here, which is on the back of my hip area. What we want to happen, we want your pelvis to stay on that tush line as you're turning back, because that's going to prime you to then rotate in good posture in a downswing. So you could imagine if I'm coming up to the top of my backswing here, and I'm even coming very slightly off that tush line area, you're going to see as I'm coming down the downswing, it's going to be extremely unlikely now for me to regain that hip kind of depth again, because we know the golf swing is a dynamic move. If our hips have already started to move forward in the backswing, they're going to continue to do that movement coming into the downswing, really moving onto our toes. So it's something where I almost call the point of no return when we get up to this spot. I don't think I've ever seen a golfer get back into a good spot when they're losing their hip depth. So definitely, if you want to get rid of your early extension, you want to tick the boxes for everything you need to be able to not early extend the downswing, this is one you absolutely have to tick off. You cannot, as we just described there, have an early extension free downswing doing that move. So let's understand a little bit of why that can happen for some golfers. Now, a lot of the times, this is golfers just doing this movement. There's nothing necessarily causing a lot of golfers to do this. They're just going in there and doing that movement, shooting the pelvis forward, coming through the golf ball. That's where a good drill in a minute is really going to help. But if I do see a movement that might cause a golfer to do this, very commonly their posture at setup. So I can see quite a lot of the times with golfers who have too much hip hinge at setup there, where they've really bent from those hips, their upper body or their back is very, very flat going here, and their armpits are very much either over their toes or in front of their toes. It's going to put a very stressful kind of position on the hips and the lower back here. So a lot of players will be coming up to the top of their backswing and naturally be shooting their pelvis forward to get into a more comfortable position for their body at the top of the backswing. Because if we see a player maintain that, one, they're not going to really turn all that much. You can't turn too well when you're really bent over. You can't get that full backswing. So with the body trying to get a nice full turn, again, to stay a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more stress-free on an area of the lower back, the pelvis will shoot a little bit forward to make it more easier on the body. So what we want to see, so we're really making sure we're not having a root cause to this issue, and that is setting up to that golf ball, instead of having a lot of hip hinge to where your armpits are over in front of your toes here, we want to have a little bit flatter of a lower back here from kind of pelvis region to lower back, and we want to have it flat going mid back and then slightly rounding as we're going up to our upper back here. What that will do, that will keep your upper body, your armpits, very much over the balls of your feet there. So you can see I'm almost in that type of kind of losing hip depth type of move here. But we know in the golf swing it's a dynamic movement. So if I turn back in the backswing now, it's going to be far easier for me to have my hips go backwards with good depth up there. So let's say now we've got our posture in place, but we're still moving that pelvis just a little bit towards the golf ball, coming off that tush line at the top of the backswing there. So then we know we're going to early extend from there. We need to train the right movement in, of course. So what we want to happen, like we said a little bit before, we want, in regards to that tush line there, we want to be staying on it or even slightly breaking it to where my hips are almost going slightly back behind that tush line. So what would generally happen with my hips, the right hip will be moving back and around. So you could almost be feeling like someone's grabbing your right pocket in your trousers here and just pulling them backwards, which will give you a good hip turn and it'll give you good hip depth. So more depth with anything in the golf swing means more behind us. So really pulling that pocket back, really what that's going to do, that's going to get the pressure back into your trail heel there, the pressure going into your trail heel. So that's brilliant. Pulling the pocket back, great thought. But as you know with my channel, if you watch a lot of my videos, I like a lot of drills, things that give us, physical feedback and whether we've done it right or wrong. So as you can see just off the camera here, A chair, now a lot of you suffering with early extension, probably very familiar with a chair and hitting balls with it. But here we're more concerned about the backswing with this chair rather than the downswing. Like I said, I want to give you the best chance you've got going up into the top of your swing to have an early extension free downswing. So what we're going to do here, we're going to set up to a golf ball, and we're going to set up so the chair, we're just resting against it here. So my pelvis is just resting against it, the back of my legs here. So what I want to do here, I now want to push this chair slightly back. So if we've got a chair with kind of like a hard backrest here, you'd really be pushing it a little bit back. Obviously it's a little soft area here, a camping chair. So you can see if I'm trying to push that chair back, my weight is going to be going into my pressure into my right heel there. And you can see that pocket is going to naturally move back and around. I'm going to be getting good hip depth. So for anything in the golf swing, we need physical feedback here. So if I start to do the opposite, I'm not going to feel myself pushing back that chair. Really feel like you're pushing it back with your right hip. So start off with some small swings first. Let me move that forward a little bit. And I just want to be pushing it back with my right hip and then just swinging through. So you can see just small little swings to start off with. Really feel that. A lot of you guys will be wanting to do this with your practice swing. Really just do some small practice swings. Feeling like you're pushing it back and around. You can see as I'm doing that as well, I'm really rotating my hips as well. One of the big things for golfers as well who do move their pelvis forward in the backswing is because they are not rotating their hips efficiently. Of course, if you're pushing something back with your right hip, you've got to rotate it. So it's really going to help you as well to free up your turn a little bit. So again, we've got our practice swings in, pushing it back. Then we hit more of a full shot now, just pushing it back in the backswing. And you're going to see I'm going to be moving a hell of a lot better in the downswing there, way, way better. So something that gives you, again, concrete evidence that you're doing what you want to do. So like we said, if we've got our posture correctly, which we said earlier on in the video, and we're doing something like this to make sure we're getting that hip depth, pushing it back in the backswing, we're ticking a lot of boxes for us not to have an early extension orientated downswing. So I'll put a card up there with some more reasons, more in-swing things that can cause you to early extend, but we really want to tick off all these boxes because early extension, in the end of the day, is a movement that's happening because your body's trying to get yourself back onto the golf ball and function somewhat. Early extension isn't a fault on its own, it's being caused by other things earlier on in the golf swing, which is why a chair drill like this, how we're targeting in the backswing, helps us for a root cause reason of early extending. That's why I'm never a fan too much of these drills. If someone's not addressing reasons to why they could be early extending, let's say they're just getting in reps trying to push this chair in the downswing, going through, you won't be fixing your early extension because you need to figure out why it happened. So again, that card I put up there will be perfect for this. But with that hip depth, get that practice in there, get that posture in there, and then you're going to be moving up to the top of the backswing in a much better way. That's going to prime you to move how you want in the downswing. So if you like this video, guys, of course, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So make sure that hip depth's there and you'll be having a much easier downswing.